we have already won a part of this battle. They did, as you mentioned, tried to bury us 4 miles away from the United Center when we first submitted our applications. Of course, we rejected that immediately, described how ridiculous it was that they thought that we would accept something like that. And they knew they were going to lose that on First Amendment and constitutional grounds. So finally, after many months after this lawsuit, they rejected a fourth permit application of one of the lead organizations of the coalition. But this time, when they offered an alternative, they did put us within sight and sound. Now, the challenge that we're dealing with right now is really a common sense political challenge, even for the city. When we say it's in the best interests of the city as well as the protesters that we need to extend the march, it's based on, decades and decades of experience. Understand that my organization, the United States Palestinian Community Network, the National Alliance Against Racist and Political Repression, Students for a Democratic Society, anti-war committees across the Midwest, Students for Justice in Palestine, Chicago Coalition for Justice in Palestine, all of these organizations, and now there are over 200 who have joined the coalition. We have decades of experience organizing these things. We've been organizing the lead organizers for RNC and DNC protests since 2008. And we were the lead organizers in the 2012 NATO protests in Chicago. So, we're professionals at this sort of thing. And even if you're not a professional, it only takes a little bit of common sense to recognize that for tens of thousands of people that we expect to have there on Monday, August 19th, you're not going to be able to put them on a route that's only a mile long. Because what will happen is people from the front of the march are going to get back to the park, to Union Park, before thousands have even left Union Park. So even though we are within sight and sound, we're still not upholding the First Amendment and constitutional rights of everybody, because the folks in the back are not going to get within sight and sound. The folks in the back are not going to be able to express their messages, which are first and foremost, end U.S. aid to Israel, stop the genocide, free Palestine, and stand with Palestine. That is the center of these protests, but it wasn't always the center of these protests. The other thing to recognize is that USPCN joined this coalition in April of 2023, the day after they announced that it was going to be in Chicago. We helped form the Coalition of March on the DNC because we're not a one-issue organization, and we're not a one-issue community. Palestinians and Arabs here who have been fighting for decades for Palestinian self-determination and liberation care about all the other issues that the Coalition of March on the DNC cares about as well. Immigrant rights, police accountability, stopping police crimes, Black liberation, women's rights, reproductive rights, LGBTQ rights. All of these issues are also at the forefront. But when October came around, we recognized that this was a U.S.-supported genocide. We saw that thousands and thousands were being killed in these massacres, and that the U.S. not only was not saying anything about it, they were openly supporting it, unequivocally, diplomatically, politically, militarily, financially. We knew immediately, and everybody in the coalition knew immediately, that we were going to have to center Palestine for the DNC, and ever since we have. And all of the 200 organizations that have signed on to this thing have had to say that they accept that we're centering Palestine here. And that's why it's incredible that it's this big. It's incredible that it's this broad. But nobody who has been watching the United States and the rest of the world in the last 10 months should be surprised that Palestinians have such incredibly broad support within the movement. This thing is going to be huge. It's going to be historic. It's going to be the largest mobilization for Palestinian rights in the history of Chicago. And it is going up against the strongest, most powerful empire in the history of the world. We recognize who's in power. We recognize who the enemy is. People are asking, why are you protesting against the Democrats? Well, if the Republicans were in party and the Republicans had the president, then the event of the season would have been the RNC. It turns out that the folks who are most responsible, who are most complicit for the genocide, for the killing of 40,000 people, for the killing of 100 people at another school that was bombed just yesterday by the Israelis. 70,000 people in Khan Yunis in Gaza have been pushed out of their homes again just yesterday. And the responsibility is on Genocide Joe and Killer Kamala. So that's why it doesn't matter that there's been a change to the top of the ticket. It doesn't matter to our coalition. It doesn't matter to the organizations that are joining and have joined the coalition and that are going to be mobilizing. In fact, Netanyahu was here 2 weeks ago. He met with Biden directly. He met with Harris directly. And then a day later, he bombed Beirut. And a day after that, he, violated the territorial integrity of the sovereign state of Iran and killed a Palestinian leader there. The U.S. itself went and bombed Iraq, and they're all threatening Yemen as well. That means Netanyahu got the green light directly from Biden and Harris. He must have. That's the timing of it means that he met with Biden one day, he bombed Beirut the next. He got the permission. And so Netanyahu for months has wanted to expand this into a regional war. And we, as an anti-war movement in this country, not just Palestine support and Palestine support, solidarity, but we need to make sure that we stop an expanded war on Lebanon or on Yemen or on Iran. And that's incumbent upon us and the listeners of this show and the social justice and anti-war movement in this country as well.
Thank you so much for watching the Real News Network, where we lift up the voices, stories, and struggles that you care about most. And we need your help to keep doing this work. So please tap your screen now, subscribe, and donate to the Real News Network. Solidarity forever.